You are listening to Right Off the Bus.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 13 of Right Off the Bus. Obviously here with my fantastic co-host, Pat Mahoney. Excited to get into another week of sports. Episode 13, Pat. Every time I see the number 13, I immediately just start thinking about Steve Nash. I don't know why. That connection just goes in my head since you wear 13. But we're excited for episode 13. We got a lot to talk about. We're going to be talking about a lot of different stuff. We got football, basketball. We got headlines, man. We got listener questions. We got running. We got a fantastic guest this week, a good friend of mine and my family, Joe Gizzi. We got a lot to talk about, Pat. A lot of sports going on, but first, just, with what we got going on, my girlfriend recently got a dog. I know we talked about it, the fact that she was going to be getting one, but she actually got the dog. And Pat, I got to tell you, man, she didn't think it was going to be this big. She really didn't. They told her,
like, I was going to say, how heavy was she expecting?
So she thought it would be like 10 pounds. That's what they said. It's probably a couple pounds more. It's probably only 12 or 13, right? But they told her that it was a Chihuahua and Jack Russell Terrier mix. So you would expect that to be 25, 30 pounds max.
Yeah, Jack Russell Terrier is pretty small. My buddy had one. Yeah,
and then the picture that she sent me, it had little Chihuahua legs, man. They were tiny. But then she gets this dog. Its legs are a foot long, man. It's probably 12, 13 pounds. It looks like it's a lab mix. Like, it really does. It's only 4.5 months old or so, and it's already like 12, 13 pounds. So there's no Chihuahua in it, man. Chihuahuas cap at like 9, 10 pounds, don't they?
Yeah, I'm wondering how big this thing's going to get if it's already like 13 pounds. And how old is it?
It's 4.5 months old, dude. Like, it's
already
it's going to
grow.
Its legs are long, man. Like, I'm not seeing any Chihuahua. I can see some Terrier. It's got like a little head and a pointed snout like a Terrier, but I'm seeing some Lab in it, man. And Alex is funny. She always kind of says that she doesn't really think Labs are cute. She kind of says that they're the most average dog out there.
Oh, come on. They're so cute.
No, I'm with you. I think they're cute, but yeah, Willow, that's the name of this dog. Willow's going to be big, man. They told her 25, 30 pounds. I'm looking like 40, 45, 50 pounds potentially. And we'll see. Obviously got to wait and see what happens with the pup, but man.
Yeah, 40 to 50, that's like a good weight though. Like, when you start to get to like 80 to 100, that's a big dog, but like for where she lives and I think in general like 40 pounds is a good size dog. My brother has a mini golden doodle, and that thing's, I think it's full grown now. It's probably like 40, 45 pounds, but I think it's a good size. And that's funny that
awesome dog.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's beautiful. They have an Instagram for it. It's a whole thing. My brothers love and their girlfriends, they love doing pet Instagrams. It's like the popular thing to do, but I don't blame them. They're good dogs. The other one has a German Shepherd. But it's funny its name is Willow too, because that's my girlfriend's cat's name that they got like a year ago.
That's funny. That was my first ever dog name. Like,
it's a good name. It's a good like girl name.
Yeah, absolutely. In her condo association, the max limit on a dog is 50 pounds. So we're gonna see if Willow ends up getting on there.
I know they're gonna be putting that thing on the scale. They're gonna knock on the door with a dog scale. They're gonna put it on.
The condo association just rolls up like the Repo Man dude with a scale, just like ready to go. Yeah,
dude, you don't want to mess with those condo association people. They take their job very seriously, because I live in a condo complex similar to Alex, and it's for real. They don't mess around.
Those HOAs, man, there's some serious stuff.
No, you park in like a guest spot for like 30 minutes. You got a ticket of some sort sitting there, or a warning at least.
When I went to your condo, you were like, "No, you gotta park over here."
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
yeah,
it is what
very
it is,
specific.
It is what it is. And Pat, I mean, moving on from the dog, I was told you had some allergies, but you sound great, man. You
no, I think you can hear it in my voice. I think, especially if you're just listening and you're not watching on YouTube, you can probably hear it in my voice. I don't know if it's like deeper, but it's definitely nasally, so hopefully not annoying. But I'll try not to be sniffling and coughing and whatever else. And I promise I don't have COVID. Just allergies. It's like I think maybe because we've been inside for like 80% of our time for the last year, I feel like allergies are going to be so much worse this year because like I wasn't going
Mm.
outside last spring as much, especially like March and April when COVID first started. So just like everything, like I think with your immune system not being strong, I think we're going to be like, I'm going to be in for some horrible allergies this season.
Yeah, and I only get seasonal allergies every couple of years because it is different trees and flowers pollinating and they go through all these cycles and whatever. But if you got bad allergies, man, I do not envy you when the seasons are changing and it's time to start getting outside because that is not fun to deal with whenever I deal with it every couple of years, dude. If you're
No,
going
it's
through it,
brutal.
I feel bad for you, man. But we're just gonna ignore any sniffles. We're just gonna keep pushing, man. Pat's here for the
Push
pod,
fast.
dude. He's ready to get the pod going. He's ready to attack. Allergies
I'm
aren't
just
gonna
for
hold
the
him back.
content. I'm just for the content.
That's what it is, man. That's what it is. Pat, we got to move on, man. Time to start getting into the show. Time to get into some sports headlines. And first, I want to start the show with this first one, man. Mostly because, well, one, it's really messed up, but two, anytime the NCAA messes up, I want to talk about it because I think they're one of the worst organizations there is. And obviously, I'm speaking facetiously. It's not actually the worst because there's a million different bad things, and this is in our bubble of sports. I understand, but the NCAA sucks, Pat. So Sedona Price from the University of Oregon women's basketball team, she posts on Instagram. So guys, it's a selfie video, her sweaty after practice. Hey guys, I just wanted to show you what the weight room is that the NCAA provided for the women's team. And what was it, Pat? Like 12 dumbbells, something like that.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was like if it was so like soul crushing to look at because of like you got to have everything kind of apart. But even with like the social distancing, even with the weights, apparently were social distancing. There was like nothing. It was barren. It was sad.
It really was, yeah. And then she says, well, here's a look at what the men's team gets. And then she flips the camera around and shows just the warehouse of room set up for the men. And there's a million different things to work out and lift on. And then the girls have literally this little like triangle with like 12 weights on it.
Oh, it's
And
terrible. It was like average Joe's and like Globo Gym, like right across from each other. It was so ridiculous.
that's a great way to word it, man. And then, the NCAA comes out with a statement, and then they say, "Well, the issue is space. There's not enough space." Dude,
Oh, it's
how? Who lets the NCAA put out that statement? Then she turns the camera around, and there's a warehouse full of men's equipment. What? Why can't they work out together? Oh,
yeah,
COVID,
yeah.
social distancing. Well, the whole team's already been tested, right? And then she turns around. Well, here's all of our space, and it's right behind her. And there's an empty warehouse with a bunch of chairs 6 feet apart. And they're like, oh, there wasn't enough space. Really, the NCAA? Really? Like, it doesn't matter if the women's teams aren't bringing in as much money. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if there isn't as much viewership. Just show a little bit of respect, man. Like this,
Yeah, you
this
could
is
either like let them work out in the same space, or at the very least, like you gotta make it an even split, right? Because I saw someone tweeted like that it was a screenshot from that woman's video from Oregon, and then it was like the UFC's Performance Institute for the women, and it was like just stacked to the gills.
Mhm.
It was like a ridiculous, yeah, just a ridiculous like warehouse of just like the men's on the NCAA.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know, I just mentioned, but the fact that the NCAA came out and said the space was an issue just really just drove me up a wall. And that like compounded and made it even worse. Like one, you're just straight up being a little bit sexist. No, you just straight up are being sexist, not a little bit, and acting like you don't care. But then the excuse is just so half-assed and just so how did he even get put out? Like, dude, I'm sitting here trying to get a job in communications, like in PR, like something, and I just think about the fact that I could do better than all of these statements
Yeah,
being
you're like, I could
released.
be on the NCAA PR team, actually
I,
bring something positive.
dude, I'd blow them all out of the water. You would too. Like, are you
Hmm.
serious? This is ridiculous. But then, of course, the NCAA comes out and they give them a great weight room and they fix it. And it does kind of tell you the power of social media, man, right? She posts this video. She doesn't have a lot of followers. She has like 50,000 something now. She blew up because of it, which is awesome. But It's the power of social media, man. I mean, you put it out there, people get angry, and then things change, and it is cool to see that. And it was cool to see a lot of different performance companies and sports equipment companies say, hey, we're going to send you 10 ellipticals. Hey, we're going to send you 10 of this. Hey, we're going to send you fitness bands, So there were a lot of companies
Hmm.
reaching out, and there were a lot of companies supporting it, which was good to see. But man, screw the NCAA. And
And
I would
I was gonna say, had it been rectified since we're talking now? I thought I had seen that, like, I don't know if it's because of the NCAA or because what you just mentioned with like companies sending them stuff. I thought I had seen that they got more equipment, but
they
I
did.
wasn't sure like where it came from.
Yeah, the NCAA did like give them a weight room. They were like,
Okay.
yeah, no, we didn't give you anything, so let's fix this. But it was just because of the massive social response and the
Hmm.
like. Imagine if you're the NCAA and a bunch of other fitness companies start saying, "Hey, we're going to
Oh, that
provide
looks
equipment,
bad.
man." That's like if you're a restaurant and you're like, "Yeah, no, like the place across the street, you should go there, man." Like, yeah, just order takeout while you sit here. That's not how it works, man. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, the NCAA, I'm glad that they fixed it, but it shouldn't take millions of people and that public pressure to just treat the female athletes fairly. Like, if
Yeah,
you
no, it shouldn't take a social campaign to have like proper equipment to work out.
and I genuinely don't believe that if you split the weight room 70-30 or 75-25, the women would have complained with 25% of the facilities that the men had. I don't think it would have been an issue if it was
Yeah,
switched up.
yeah. Yeah, and it's
But
just the fact like they got their own space and then it's just like completely ignored. It was like the janitor set it up. Like it wasn't like they had a team in there, you know.
absolutely pathetic. I hate the NCAA. Anything that hurts them, I'm down to talk about because they're a horrible organization and I can't stand them. This is why I like the new G League program. This is why I like kids going overseas. Unless it's not Duke University, screw the NCAA. But, Pat, you want to talk a little bit about this next headline, man? This is something you've been keeping an eye on for far too long.
No,
It's
I
been a long
know.
time.
Like I feel bad, but at the same time, I don't know why I'm so fascinated with it. But I mentioned last week the Rockets had lost 16 in a row. And now here we are recording Monday of the next week, and they just lost their 20th in a row. And like I don't know what there even is to rectify the situation at this point. They're almost well, they probably are as bad as the Timberwolves. Their record's like I think like 2 games better. They might have like 2 less losses or something, but they do play the Timberwolves. I think it might be like next week sometime, maybe like next Monday. It's 2 games until the Timberwolves, so I'm interested to see like who wins out of that game and who's going to be the worst in the West, and probably the entire NBA actually. But it'd be the Rockets versus the Timberwolves. But I mean, I do feel bad for the coach. What's his name? Steven Silas. Yeah. So Steven Silas, head coach of the Rockets. You got to feel bad for him. And another use of the word soul crushing. That interview with him was just terrible. They had the guy after the game and their 20th loss ask him, I forget exactly how he worded it, but basically, like, is it, you actually had a chance to win, like, and you were getting blown out in the other games. Is this loss any worse? Or like, is this starting to
Hmm.
weigh on your team heavier? And he just sits there for like 10 seconds and he's like, yeah. And then I don't know, I didn't see the rest of the interview, but like I could tell just from that it wasn't gonna go any farther than that. And it reminded me of like Marshawn Lynch. I was like, you know why this guy's here? Like, because he has to be. Like, the last thing he wants to be doing is talking to the press and the media after the 20th straight loss. Because I don't know how you like get that locker room back after all that. I don't know
Hmm.
what you do. Because again, so their loss to the Thunder, which was the 20th, was the first single digit loss since their 5 point loss to the Sixers on February 17th. So over a month of just double digit losses. I think of the 20 losses in a row, that was only their second single digit loss.
Oh, dude, it really is so sad. And yeah, it was a 2 point game or a 1 point game, wasn't it? And
Oh, yeah, it was very close. They had a chance to win.
John Wall got blocked at the buzzer. Like John Wall was going in for the layup and Luguentz Dort, man. Dort became a fan favorite because of OKC in the playoffs last year, man. And
Hmm.
it's funny seeing like Rob Perez put up that video and say the torture chamber, man, and all this stuff. But like you're like, oh, happy for the Thunder. And then you see that Steven Silas interview, man. And yeah, I saw it on Twitter and I was watching it and it was on second like 15 of him just sitting there silently, and I was like, I can't watch this anymore. Like I'm
Yeah,
watching a guy sit for
and it
for
makes me
15
wonder about
seconds.
like the significance of James Harden to the Rockets. Was it really
Mm.
that big of a deal of him being on the team, or is this just like they started losing and they've completely gone off the rails, like they've lost all control? I don't think they should be this bad. I mean, they did get Victor Oladipo, but like I said last week, Victor Oladipo clearly doesn't want to be there anymore. And again, a losing streak has that effect. And we don't know if it's actually the case. If they won a few games in a row, maybe the attitude starts to change, team morale goes up. I don't know. At this point, I don't know again what there is to rectify the situation. I mentioned last week, like they could finish strong. I have 4 losses later in a row here. Here we are. I don't know if they're going to be able to, but you got to just look forward to next season. I don't think there's much you can do, and regardless of if I feel bad for the head coach, I mean it's just inexcusable. Like you do have a decent roster, and I know the West is tough, but they're losing to everyone, and they have a game coming up, I believe tonight, the day of recording, against the Raptors, who are 17-25 if I remember their record correctly. And I mean, that's not a great record at all. That's 8 games under 500. And if you lose by double digits to them, those are just like the losses you can't excuse whatsoever. So I do feel bad for the head coach, but I don't know. At a certain point, it's like you got to find someone else and you got to move in a different direction.
Yeah, I definitely agree, and I do feel bad for Steven Silas. This is his first head coaching gig after being an assistant coach for like 15 years plus in the league. This guy's been around, he's paid his dues, and you come into a situation where you have to answer a question about James Harden every single day for months,
Mm-hmm.
and then you finally trade, and the deal wasn't that great for them, man. The good young talent went elsewhere. You got Oladipo because it's an expiring contract and make the money
Mm-hmm.
work. But you're going to trade Oladipo before the deadline, which is in a couple days, without a doubt. He's going to be gone. John Wall can't stay healthy. Christian Wood hasn't been healthy. The roster's been in turnover, and you didn't get the good young players out of the deal, man. Jarrett Allen is in Cleveland. Karis LeVert is in Indiana. Like you didn't
Mm-hmm.
get good young players back for your superstar. You got a bunch of picks. What good are the Nets picks, man? They're not going to be hindsight. It doesn't look like a great deal. I don't know why you didn't get young talent back. Why didn't you get Karis LeVert and Jared Allen? Like it's weird. Don't love the deal. Feel for Steven Silas, and like you said, man, there's just no morale on this team. How do you turn it around? I don't know. I
Mm-hmm.
really
And
don't.
who I feel really bad for is John Wall, because like I was happy that he was getting out of Washington. I was like, oh, he's getting out of, it's felt like just a stalemate there for so many years. They had talent, him and Bradley Beal, but they just could never do anything more than like a 6 seed or a 5 seed. And I was like, oh, he's going to the Rockets. That could be a good situation. Like they had John Wall, and then what, DeMarcus Cousins went there. And
Mhm.
then, they were going to get Victor Oladipo. I was like, that's a decent squad. And then they got some picks to rebuild with, but no, that is just not how it worked out, and I feel terrible for him. It's a guy who, if anyone deserves to like be on a winning team and make a run to the finals, it's John Wall.
Yeah, man. Maybe the Rockets will just buy everyone out and trade everyone out, man. And
Yeah, I
who
don't know
knows?
what's gonna happen with them. Maybe
That's
we'll
gonna
be
be a
back next week with another update. 24 losses in a row. We'll see how long they
oh,
can go.
man. Hopefully not. And there isn't much to build on that roster, even though that we were all excited for it when it happened. Because dude, no one liked the way Harden left Houston. Everyone was
No.
rooting for Houston afterwards, and it just hasn't worked out. But yeah, it is sad. 20 in a row is unbelievable. Hopefully they can turn it around. They're probably not gonna, but keeping in the NBA, man. Just a couple more headlines real quick. Pat, LeBron James, high ankle sprain. And I gotta tell you, I've sprained my ankles a million times. I have an issue with the subtalar joint in my ankle. It goes some weird ways. I've had high ankle sprains. High ankle sprains are much, much worse. They take weeks to recover. They're painful. LeBron James did not die. LeBron James was not in a car accident. LeBron James rolled his ankle, and he's going to be hobbling around for a couple weeks, and he's going to be back on the court.
Mm-hmm.
And he's posting saying like this hurts me inside and out, like the grind starts now, all this stuff. People are posting those memes of him and Anthony Davis like in the chamber tubes with the masks on, like like regenerating, and I'm like, he sprained his ankle, man. Like,
Yeah, he's not. Anthony Davis is out way longer. I don't know. It's
yeah,
hard to feel bad for a guy with like $1 billion Nike deal.
right, and like LeBron's indestructible, and he's only ever had like 2 real injuries in his career. So I get it, and I get the ESPN love affair with LeBron's ratings, but man, the league's not as fun to watch when LeBron's not playing. Ratings will be
This
down
is
because
true.
people will not be watching the Lakers, and people are still going to be talking about them all day, every day because it's LeBron. But the public reaction was really funny. I was sitting, my buddy Brett is screaming at his phone, saying like, "This dude is so soft." Like I'm putting in some nicer words for some things that I don't want to say on the podcast. But he's like, this dude is so soft. Like, what do you mean you're regen? What do you blah blah blah? And he's just getting mad at him. And I'm like, and this is why LeBron posts it, Brett. And I know you're gonna listen to this and get mad at me, Brett, but that's why LeBron posts it, man. That's why. So people talk about it one way or
Yeah,
another.
no. LeBron posts one thing, SportsCenter's going to talk about it. ESPN's going to talk about it. Every other show, Undisputed's going to talk about it. It's like we're talking about it. I mean, anything
Right.
that happens, any show is going to talk about LeBron. It's just the way it goes. He's 18 seasons in, and that's why I hope we don't get the same thing with Bronny Jr. I hope best of luck to him, but I just hope it doesn't. We just don't go through another 18 years of LeBron and LeBron.
Well, it's going to be another 4 or 5 years, I think, unfortunately, with the
Till we got to worry
LeBron
about
effect.
anything like that. Yeah.
but I will say, dude, there's another player, Pat, that just got hurt that ESPN does this with as well. There's a million LaMelo posts every day too, and I get it. LaMelo's fun to talk about, but Pat, fractured wrist, man, wrist. They're saying he's likely out the rest of the season, man. That
Hmm.
hurts, dude. LaMelo's been having such a great year. He has great averages. He's been so much fun to watch. The Hornets are in the thick of the playoff picture, and you lose the rookie of the year front runner. And I wouldn't even say front runner like it's locked up. He's the rookie of the year. He had won it, man. And now that race
Hmm.
is wide open. But just stinks to hear about LaMelo.
Yeah. First, I will say the NBA knows how to like push their stars and at least market them because they do need to get their ratings up and they know exactly what they need to do it. LeBron,
Mm,
Zion, and now they got LaMelo Ball, who's going to be their cash cow if he, stays healthy.
right.
Obviously, that was a freak thing. He went up and he kind of just landed on his hand, and it was a freak accident, which is like a lot of injuries. But yeah, I guess it was like his shooting hand near his thumb on his wrist, and he fractured that after an MRI. They revealed that. But yeah, he was averaging 16, 6 and 6, just about. And he was a front runner for rookie of the year. So it's a tough injury for fans. The Hornets, poor Jordan. I mean, he finally gets a good draft pick. He finally does well in the draft, and then he gets injured. They weren't going to do anything crazy this season. Again, they're in the playoff hunt. Actually, the thick of the playoffs, really. I don't know what their seating is in the East, but they've been having a good season. They've been kind of a surprise.
They
So
have the
I
same
feel
record as the Celtics for the most part. Like they're
so. There
neck and
you go.
neck.
Yeah, oh man, don't no Celtics. It's been tough. I saw a tweet from it might have been Adam Taylor or it was one of our Celtics guys over at Celtics blog, and it was a GIF, and it was like, oh, the Celtics play today, yay! And he was like so sarcastic, he's not excited. But
It used
anyways,
to be
we'll
a yay. It
yeah,
used
we
to be a
we
yay.
might mention the Celtics later in the show,
Yeah,
but
yeah, we'll definitely get into them. And Pat, we're gonna move to a little football. We're gonna be talking football every week, it seems, Pat. One way or another, we got to talk NFL. You got the Ravens
there's too
flag
much going
behind you.
on.
Yeah, it is. It is what it is, man. The NFL is high drama right now, and I'm here for it. But we got some small signings we're gonna touch on real quick. The biggest of the week that we didn't really get to talk about last week, I would say, would be Juju Smith, man. And Juju re-signs with the Steelers. I don't have the deal in front of me. I want to say it was 1 year, 8 million or something. Like it felt like he was way underpaid. And
Hmm.
the reports say that he turned down more money and more years from the Ravens and the Chiefs to rejoin the Steelers for 1 year. And I don't know if it's this one last year with Big Ben thing, or if it's I just want to stay here, and maybe it's a deal where he can't get franchise tagged and he wants to leave next year. But this seemed really weird to me. One, more money and more years. from two teams that are better than the Steelers.
Hmm.
One being Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, and the list goes on. Weird to me. And then your team, the Ravens, Pat. The Ravens need a number one receiver. And Juju, like we've talked about, he's kind of a number two. But if you want to be a number one, you get that opportunity in Baltimore too.
Hmm.
Like that situation's much more. This was weird to me, Pat. And as a Ravens fan, you said, "Nah, I don't want Juju because obviously you got that division rivalry and all that." But dude, this would have been a big move for the Ravens, and I'm
I
kind of
know. Yeah.
confused by the deal. I'm confused by Juju on this one.
I know, and I wish I was more prepared and had the contract in front of me. But if it is a 1 year, like we're saying, that makes sense to me because Big Ben's coming back for 1 year. It's kind of like they might keep the band together for just as long as they can, which is probably one season. No, they just lost Bud Dupree. I don't know what's going on with James Conner. He was hitting free agency. I don't know if they're re-signing him or if he's going somewhere else. If they're able to re-sign James Conner, I know they had kind of to rework some things with cap space. They didn't have much, but keep it together for one season. And yeah, we kind of mentioned it before we started recording. Like it made sense. He didn't want to go to the division rivals. And with the Chiefs, he would have been the 10th best player on the Chiefs. It's like they have so much firepower. Maybe that was part of what factored in. Like obviously he's getting paid less staying with the Steelers. So clearly it wasn't all about money. But on the Steelers, he's going to be their number one, their number two. They have Chase Claypool. So it's really just going to be Juju and Chase Claypool again. So they'll be the 1 and 2 kind of mixing. We'll see who's going to be like the number one. I don't. Last season, Claypool had the better stats, but we'll see what happens with Juju. The defenders might cater more to Chase Claypool after last season. We don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. And with the Ravens, I understand he didn't want to go to the division rivals. I'm okay with it. I've kind of just like with the Ravens, I've come to just this inner acceptance. We're not going to sign anyone because we'll mention again, but we didn't get any wide receivers, which is like what I've been advocating for this entire time. Maybe we could still get one through trade. We're probably going to have to trade Orlando Brown. Maybe we'll try to get one through a trade with someone. I don't see us going that route. I don't see it likely. But I tell you what, man, it feels like no receivers are left on the board. I'll mention this one right now. The Rams just got Deshaun Jackson. And I didn't even want Deshaun Jackson, but that just goes to show like he was one of the last even big names in air quotes
Right.
big names on the market, and we didn't even get him. We couldn't get anybody, man. It's sad to see. And for Juju, like if I was in his shoes, I think it makes sense to stay at the Steelers at least for one more season. We'll see what happens this year. He'll play it by year. Maybe he wants to have a bigger season. Maybe he wants to try to go off this year because he had a down year last year. Maybe he wants to go off, maybe try to make a name for himself again, get a bigger contract somewhere else next year.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear you there. It's just I just looked it up and it is a 1 year up to $8 million deal. And
Okay.
I'm like, didn't the Patriots just pay Nelson Aguilar more than that?
Mm,
Like that's on average what we just paid Kendrick Bourne.
Patriots were
Like,
desperate.
yeah, it was just confusing though, dude. I would have taken Juju over either of those guys, but yeah, maybe he does want to be that number one. But Chase Claypool, 6'4", dude, big physical guy, caught 4 touchdowns that one game. Who knows if he'll be the number one? It is weird though that the two Steelers wide receivers are the most annoying athletes on TikTok. They are both dreadful on TikTok, but that's okay since they're Steelers, man. We got to root for the Ravens in the NFC North on this podcast. But yeah, so Deshaun Jackson to the Rams, kind of a weird deal, but like you said, not a lot of receivers left. You get Matt Stafford, another receiver, you get him another piece of depth and a deep threat there. Don't hate the deal, but Pat, where are the rest of the receivers, man? Marvin Jones goes to Jacksonville. Kenny Golladay just signed with the Jets. What are the Ravens doing? I saw
I think
someone.
Giants.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Giants. And I literally am sitting here reading it off my monitor, and I said Kenny Golladay, 2 Jets, even though it says 2 Giants. But dude, it's ridiculous what is happening. I saw someone tweet out. I can't believe I didn't send this to you. Someone tweeted out a picture, and they were Googling Ravens wide receivers. And then it had pictures for Marquise Brown and like 2 other guys, like Mark Andrews and someone else. And then it didn't have photos for the other guys that are on the roster. One, it just
Yeah.
had the Ravens logo. One, it had a Ravens jersey. And the other one was just like a blank avatar, like gray headshot.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, and
what the
it's no
Ravens
no
offense is
disrespect to
looking like.
those young guys or just no name guys. It's like, I'm sure they're great talent, they're great receivers, but like we needed someone with a big name. We need someone who's top tier. And those Lions receivers were since beginning of free agency and even beforehand, like my biggest hope. Marvin Jones or Kenny Galladay. Those were two like I really wanted.
Yeah.
Or Allen Robinson, but he got tagged, so that never happened. But yeah, those Lions receivers were like our biggest chance in my mind. And like I said, there's nobody left.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of Allen Robinson getting tagged real quick, we didn't it happened, after last episode. Andy Dalton, man. Andy Dalton, 1 year up to 10 mil with Chicago. Mitch Trubisky is now a backup, man. Like or
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Trubisky left. Where did he sign? He signed as the
The
backup
Bills.
somewhere.
He's
Yeah,
he's backing up. He's backing up Josh Allen. He's gonna
so
be up in
now
Buffalo.
you passed on Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes to trade up for Mitchell Trubisky. And
Mm-hmm.
now your quarterback room is $22 million a year Nick Foles and Andy Dalton. Oh, dude, Chicago fans, I'm sorry. It's
Yeah, I
never
know.
happening.
And then they went
You're
from
never getting a
trying,
quarterback.
yeah, and
Never.
they aggressively tried to get Russell Wilson too, and then Seahawks said no. So they end up from like aggressively trying to get Russell Wilson to getting rid of Trubisky, signing Dalton. And I think Dalton's going to be their starter. I think Foles is going to be the
Mhm.
backup. At least that's the plan. We'll see how preseason goes. If they're going to do preseason this year. They didn't do it last year, I don't think.
No.
I think they'll do it this year, but like Pat Ricard said, they got all those protocols. So I don't know. Well, I guess we'll play it by ear. We'll see what happens.
Pat
But yeah,
Ricard's lining
Dalton,
up at receiver this year, man, for the Ravens. I swear. I
dude,
swear.
dude, we're gonna have to throw him some dump passes for sure. So we're gonna have to get creative. I hope
6'3",
Harbaugh's
315 pounds, lining up on the outside of the numbers.
yeah, I hope Harbaugh and the offensive coordinator. I hope Greg Roman's got something up his sleeve there. We gotta see what goes. See what goes on.
What else we got, Pat? We got Will Fuller, man. Another
Yeah.
receiver. Suspended the first 5 or 6 games of this year for PEDs and all that nonsense. But a really great receiver. Had some
Hmm.
really great performances in Houston. And goes to the Dolphins. Also to the Dolphins, Jacoby Brissett, as a backup. I wish Jacoby Brissett got more of a chance in the league. I would have liked to see him come back to New England and fight for that starting spot. But Will Fuller of the Dolphins, you need Tua. You need Tua to have weapons. I like the signing.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you have any thoughts on the Will Fuller of the Dolphins other than he could have been a Raven.
Yeah, no, that was my one of my thoughts was that he could have been a Raven, and then my main one though was that the Dolphins are going to be a sneaky good team if Tua can perform. It's like because now they have Will Fuller once he's off of suspension, Devontae Parker, Mike Gesicki, who's the running back, Miles Gaskin. Miles Gaskin played very well last year. So they're going to have a good core of guys there for sure. Their offense is going to be solid. Their defense played way better than expected last season. So the Dolphins, I mean, the AFC East really looking like going to be the best division in football. You look at the Jets got a little better. I mean, they signed an offensive weapon. They're looking a little bit better. And then you got who knows how Darnold will play. And we don't know what's going to happen in the draft. We haven't seen what
Right.
happens in the
A
draft
lot of
yet.
draft capital.
The Bills are going to be the Bills. They're going to be great. Dolphins are going to be sneaky good. Patriots, I mean,
The
the
Pats are
Patriots went
back.
on a shopping spree. Like if Newton plays the way we know Newton can play, and he has a comeback year, it's gonna be a tight season in the AFC East. It's the Bills might run away with it. I could be totally wrong, but I think there's a lot more competition than there usually is.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about it with a listener question later on, but the Cam Newton might not be starting for the Patriots this year, Pat. The Pats have 30 million left in cap space.
Mm.
Trades, draft day trades. There's a lot of potential for this Pats
Yeah, I
quarterback
saw someone they
situation.
were interested in the draft. I saw a rumor there. I think I know what you're alluding to.
Yeah, we got a listener question later, so we'll touch on that then. But I will say the last Pat signing that came a little later, David Andrews came back, and David Andrews took less money to come back, and it was massive. It was a really good deal for the Patriots. You get your starting center locked up for the next 4 years, and center is a really underrated position, man.
Mm.
It really is, and to have a guy know the system and know the call outs and just know how to work with the offensive line and running it's really big. So not having to switch that and having a guy that's been here for years Really excited to have David Andrews back. Pat Chung retired on the same day. Unfortunately, we don't get Pat Chung back off the opt out, but the Patriots, I'm telling you, man, the Pats are back. I said this about Liverpool, and then they went on their worst streak in Premier League history for like 6 weeks. But I'm telling you, the Pats are back. The
Yeah,
Pats are
we're
back.
not good betting men over here. Don't take our
No,
word for it on
do not
anything.
place. Yeah, we should have a disclaimer every episode. Do not place any money on anything I'm saying. Like,
Yeah, I'm
do
glad.
not.
It's almost it almost worked out. We didn't get the bonus episode out for March Madness because my brackets are terrible. I mean, I am in like the bottom percentile. Granted, there's been a lot of upsets, and like I try to pick my upsets here and there, but again, I would have said it too. I would have been disclaimer: don't take any of these picks because most of them were just terrible.
And Pat, that's a great transition, man, because it's time to start talking a little basketball, and we got to talk some of these March Madness upsets, man. As of us recording today, man, that's something we need to get out there. As of us recording today, these are the matchups that we can talk about. Because with March Madness, we got a lot of games happening all day. It's Monday when we're recording this. We got 8 March Madness games. Makes Mondays a little bit
Yeah,
better.
yeah. For the most part, we'll be okay. Like the rest of the second round is today, but then the Sweet 16 doesn't start till I think it's the 27th. So we'll be good at least on most of the games. But yeah, at least like the first half, will anything could happen. We don't know like if these upsets are gonna go a little bit farther, but yeah, we're
Yes.
okay for now.
Yeah, we got like half the Sweet 16 teams in while we're talking about it, so it's fun to talk about. But man, we just want to highlight some of these upsets. Obviously, Pat and I can't watch every single game. We got work, we got lives, man. But we are watching some good college basketball right now. And man, Ohio University in Miami, Ohio, number 13 seed, taking down 4 seed Virginia, Pat. And obviously, I was saying, hey, I've watched a lot of Virginia. I'm looking forward to seeing them win, man. Ohio takes them down. Jason Preston, he had like 13, 11, and 8 or something. This kid is
Mm-hmm.
balling out. Post game, looking like LaMelo with the crazy hair, and all he's saying is, "I hope my mom's proud." I hope my mom's proud. And it's like, how can you not love this kid? How can you not root for the 13 seeds, man? It was a lot of fun to see them win, and I know they got another matchup coming up soon, right?
Yeah, they're playing 5 Creighton later tonight. So that's again one of the things we don't know what's going to happen. They could have another upset on the cards. I honestly believe it. They beat 4 Virginia. I think Virginia is a better team than Creighton, so they could easily beat Creighton. We'll see what happens again with most of these. But I got to say, Chandler, this has been like I think I say it every year where there's just so many upsets and I'm like, oh, this year's way different. Like there's been more upsets than ever before. But this year there actually has been. And
Yeah.
I didn't get any of these right that we're gonna go over. Like I didn't pick a single one of these. Even some like 11s over 6s, I didn't pick, which is the next one. UCLA beat 6 BYU. UCLA was the 11. And that was a crazy matchup and UCLA is going to play another upset team, 14 Abilene Christian. So you have an 11 and a 14 going against each other. So regardless of who wins that game, you're going to have a minimum 11 seed in the Sweet 16, possibly a 14 seed, which would be pretty cool to see.
Without a doubt, man. And I had picked Michigan State to beat UCLA in the play-in. And then I said Michigan State's going to keep winning. So UCLA is doing what I thought Michigan State was going to do,
Mm-hmm.
even though Michigan State blew a 14-point lead to UCLA, which not happy about for my bracket. But yeah, dude, the fact that we have an 11 seed matching up with a 14. So 11 beats 6, man. And then 14 Abilene Christian beats number 3 Texas, dude. One of the favorites, one of the biggest, most physically dominant teams in the tourney
Mm-hmm.
gets taken down by Abilene Christian, man. And dude, the fact we're seeing an 11-14, fantastic, but they shouldn't be allowed to play each other. We need them both in the tournament. We
No,
need
it's
them both to stay.
I know. That's what I always love. Like you see the upsets, and then I'm like, I wish these teams didn't have to play each other. Because like, how
Yeah.
cool would it be to see an 11 and a 14 both in the Sweet 16, or possibly even the Elite Eight? But no, they got to play each other in the second round. And I will say, Texas, like I had them in my Elite Eight at least. They were, I think, one bracket I might have had them even going to the Elite or sorry, the Final Four. So they were by far a favorite. But it was funny to see Abel and Christian. You had like two of the kids as soon as they win do the horns down just on national television. That is so cocky. It's so funny, but so cocky.
So
Like Texas is the
somebody said
favorite.
someone said everyone that beats Texas from now on has to do horns down. Everyone.
Yeah, it's like it's such a cheap shot. It's like it's so easy to do. Like, oh, I'm just gonna give him the horns down. But it was funny to see, definitely.
Without a doubt, man. And then North Texas, man, against number four Purdue. They win another big upset. North Texas. I don't even know if I've heard of North Texas before, man. Like as a
Hmm.
college, cool to see them win. And then they eventually lose to Villanova and Jay Wright's program there. You know, it it's one of those. It's like you want to see the upsets every time, but you got to understand that 13 seeds and 14 seeds, they just can't keep winning. It's
Yeah,
not
those
how it
those first
works.
round upsets they're kind of common at this point, but like when you get to that second round, even it's a lot harder to win as you go. You play a lot of games in a short amount of time, and like you said, Jay Wright's program at Villanova, they're always so consistent. That's a tough team to come up against in the second round. And Villanova, I think they're coming up against Baylor in the Sweet 16. I think that's a team that could potentially beat Baylor, as good as Baylor is and as great of a season that they had. I think Jay Wright's system is so consistent. They're always decent every year, and they are always a good tournament team. And especially
Mhm.
in recent years, they had the whole run with UNC. I think they met UNC like twice. They won the final and then they lost. UNC won. But yeah, they're a team that could potentially beat Baylor in the Sweet 16. And then we'll move on to the next one, Chandler. Probably the biggest one so far. 15 Oral Roberts. And I saw this funny thing. Their abbreviation is ORU. And it was like so I'll just say this first, I'll preface it. They beat Ohio State in the first round, which I had Ohio State in my Elite Eight. And then they just beat Florida, who was the 7th seed in the second
Yeah.
round, to make it to the Sweet 16, and they're going to come up in a tough matchup against Arkansas, who's the 3. It's going to be a tough game. They could go on a miracle run. They could beat Arkansas. We'll see. But Oral Roberts' thing is ORU, and it was like Florida. We're going to the Sweet 16, and then there's Oral Roberts, and it was just a screenshot of their jersey, and it's like, oh, are you? So yeah, it was pretty good.
I
Twitter
love a
just
good
is undefeated.
I love a
Twitter's
good
so
pun,
creative.
man. It,
Yep.
it is. I love a
And
good
speaking
pun.
of
And go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, speaking of Twitter being undefeated, like 8 Loyola Chicago, we saw them a few years back. And there was the whole thing with Sister Jean, like the 100-year-old nun. Some, you know that gif of Sean Kemp dunking on the guy and he's pointing at him.
Mhm.
Someone put Sister Jean's face on Sean Kemp's body. She's dunking on an Illinois player and starts pointing, and she's
Dude.
so it's Sister Jean just laying down a monster dunk on Sean Kemp, who's Sean Kemp's dunk stat in 2K was like a 98. It was ridiculous. He had like the most powerful, most in your face dunk. So again, Twitter is undefeated, and 8 Loyola Chicago, man, another upset. They beat 1 Illinois in the second round. And Illinois, they looked like a joke. I mean, they got cooked. It was like a 13-point win, which isn't a
Yeah.
blowout, but like, when it's an upset and you're the 1 seed, you can't be losing by double digits.
Yeah, that's the thing. As a one seed, you can't allow this to happen. And I subtly root for Loyola Chicago whenever they're in the tourney because when I went to a basketball camp in a Bourne Championship basketball school at Mass Maritime in Bourne on the Cape, man, one of my coaches, Denzel, played at Loyola Chicago. And like he had played in the tourney, you know what I mean? So
That's pretty
so
cool.
like I always just kind of subtly rooted for him. Like this dude, is coaching like 14-year-olds and he's got his knees all iced up because he's acting like an old man at 23, 24 years old. And
Hmm.
but I subtly root for Loyola Chicago. And man, hearing a 101-year-old nun, Sister Jean, like ask a god to let Loyola win, like I am a man of faith, Pat. Like I
I
I
know.
got
Yep.
prayers and crosses on my arm for any like you're not supposed to ask God for sports wins, man. that's that's not how that works.
Come on,
But
Sister
Sister
Jean.
Jean
What are
gets a
you
pass
doing?
for whatever she's
What are
doing
you
because
doing out here? Yeah. And
Sister
I,
Jean gets a pass.
I wish I had known, like, and I wish I had remembered when I was doing my bracket that Loyola Chicago was like the Sister Jean team. Because when they made their run a few years ago, and then if I hadn't remembered, I wouldn't have picked the 9 seed over them in the first round. I would have been like, oh, Loyola Chicago, I'm going with them. But I can't remember who they played as the 9, but I picked the 9 and I was mistaken. I wish I had remembered that it was Sister Jean's team.
I don't wanna speak this into existence at all, but Sister Jean is 101 years old. So whenever the time comes and Sister Jean passes on, I think that Loyola needs to do like a permanent patch or band or like something just to rep Sister Jean, man. I mean,
Honestly, I bet
Sister
they
Jean's
will.
a
Like
staple.
they'll do something commemorative, whether it's in their gym or on their
Statue.
jersey or something. Yeah, yeah. Sister Jean statue. Who
You go
knows?
into the
I mean,
stadium.
I don't know why she's so important to that school, but it's kind of hilarious.
She just blesses them before games, man. I don't know.
she yeah, she travels with the team. It's like what?
We got a couple more to talk about. Obviously, that 8-1 is a big deal. Illinois losing. I think they were clearly the weakest one seed out of the one seeds. But Oregon State, man, that's who Loyola is going to be playing in the Sweet 16. And
Mhm.
Oregon State upset Tennessee in the first round, and Tennessee was a team I was high on, so that was definitely a big upset for me. And
Yep, yep. They were the 5 seed. I was high
yeah,
on Tennessee as well. They looked really good early on in the regular season when they were playing during the year. So I thought coming into the tournament they were going to be a tough team to beat, even as just a 5 seed.
yeah, without a doubt, man. And I gotta rep my boy Grant Williams on the Celtics. He's from Tennessee. He's two-time SEC Player of the Year. He's been a big part of that program over the past couple of years, and my man plays Catan every day. So I was rooting for Grant Williams here, but
Well, we
but
also
it
got to
didn't.
rep our boy Marcus Smart from Oklahoma State too, but they
It's a
also
fact.
got beat. They also got beat by Oregon State.
It's like Cade Cunningham's teammates don't know that they're playing with him, man. It's like they just let
Hmm.
him do everything. And like I was watching it, and it wasn't that Cade was playing hero ball, and it wasn't that he was forcing it. It's that his teammates weren't involved. They just didn't help. Like it looked like they didn't want to
Hmm.
be playing, and it was weird to watch. I was hoping for more, but Oregon State, obviously upsetting a couple big teams, which has been fun to watch. I did watch the end of that game, and it was great to see. And then Syracuse too, Pat, if you want to go in on that one, man. Syracuse with another great upset. Jim Boeheim, I told you, Pat, you got to pick Syracuse in the first round every tournament, no matter what. They're always going to
Yeah,
win.
no matter what seed they are, they like always they're a tournament team. They always play
Mm.
well. They run that same zone every time. Jim Boeheim has just trademarked it. And I always root for Syracuse. I had a cousin graduate from there. One of my cousins currently goes there. Shout out our boy Eli who goes there.
Yep.
He's was he a sophomore or junior at Syracuse? I can't remember.
I don't even know like what time of year it is anymore, Pat. Are we in a spring
Yeah.
semester? Are
Yeah,
we in a
no, we don't
fall
know anything.
semester?
But
Is he graduated? Yeah, I don't know. No, I
shout
think he's a
out, shout
sophomore.
out Eli this week in MLS. We had him on week 1. You guys can check him out. Go back in the catalog episodes, watch that
Mm.
episode, or go check him out. But yeah, we root for Syracuse, or at least I do. Maybe Chandler does now because of Eli too. But they
A little
upset.
bit. A little
Yeah, a little bit. We still have our teams. You got Duke, you got UNC. This is just another team we root for. But
I'm
they
with
upset.
Zion, man. I'm with Zion. I know I said it last week. They said, Zion, who you rooting for in the tourney? He said, ha, trick question. Duke's not in it. That's what's
Duke's
up,
not in it.
Zion. That's
Yep.
what's up, man. You're
That's
not
why we
rooting for
weren't as
anybody.
invested. UNC got their ass whooped by like 20 points by Wisconsin.
I'll take it.
So we might as well have not even made it. I honestly wish we didn't and we didn't get embarrassed on the national stage. But anyway,
That's
Syracuse
fair.
upset 6 San Diego State and then 3 West Virginia, which was an even bigger win. And they're playing number 2 Houston, which was the last game in that pretty much in the whole bracket. I think if you're going like left side down and then right side down, last game in the bracket. So they play 2 Houston in the Sweet 16, and I'm very curious. I think they can pull it off. Syracuse, like I said, is a tournament team. I don't know much about Houston. I know they're very good this year. They've already got 2 wins in the tournament, but
Mhm.
that's a game I could see Syracuse winning.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see such an athletic team like Houston play against that zone because it's kind of going to be
Hmm.
an awkward fit. But like you said, man, Syracuse is a tourney team. Jim Boeheim's out there letting his grandson, Buddy Boeheim, just rip threes, man. Like it's fun to watch. It's exciting to see. It's also fun watching Syracuse just because you don't see zones played at professional levels. So it's just fun to watch a team go 40 minutes playing a zone. It's not something you see very often at all. So it's been a lot of fun watching this tournament, man. And we're obviously excited to keep it going, even though our teams aren't in it, Pat, even though our teams are not in it.
Yeah, it's always a good time. It's March. It's March. We watch anyways.
And we didn't get it last year, so we have to get our fix in. And
yeah,
I will say too, I think something really interesting going on is the fact that there's like no fans, very little fans. And just this whole college basketball season is an entirely different environment. And I think that that's why you're seeing so many upsets. I think that you're not having fans screaming at you, not having these packed crowds, if you're Oral Roberts and you're playing Ohio State and there aren't 10,000 people in there screaming, Ohio State's used to that. Oral Roberts isn't. So these little things are massive. It happened in the NBA bubble last year. Shooters shoot, man. And when you're in an open gym, you're going to hit them. Dude, if I'm in an open gym by myself, no one's yelling, I'm hitting shots. These guys will hit every open shot if no one's screaming at them, even if it's in the middle of a game. So the fact that there's no fans, the COVID protocols, all the weird stuff this season is primed for huge upsets, and I am loving every second of it. I really
Yeah,
am.
that's a good point. And free throws must be easier too, now that I think about it. Like, you don't have anyone. I know college is notorious for like free throw distractions. People making the displays. You think like Arizona State doing the fake giving birth. The guy came out in a diaper, like anything like that. So it's got to be easier shooting free throws, taking threes. It's like shooting in the gym. It was like Pat Ricard said last week. He said like, at a certain point, it's hard to get going, but it felt with no fans, like it was easier for him to hear play calling, but it was also like you don't have people just screaming and there's just less distractions.
Yeah, you hear your coaches yelling at you and you get the adjustments faster and you hear what the other coach is yelling and you can hear how their team's adjusting. It's a totally different environment, but it's still a lot of fun to watch, man. And obviously NCAA has just been the gift that keeps giving when it comes to March, and we absolutely enjoy it. Pat, we got one quick NBA headline we're going to talk about too in our Ball Don't Lie segment over here. We're done with March Madness, but Blake Griffin made his Nets debut, man. And one thing that I just want to say, which is hilarious, I know everyone's talking about it, Blake Griffin hasn't dunked since 2019 in a game. And
really,
it's just like, yeah, he hasn't dunked
I didn't
in
know
2019. He hasn't dunked since 2019.
God,
And
you wouldn't
what?
expect it.
Guess what he does right when he subs in for the Nets, man? Gets his first dunk
Goes
in
right
a
in
year
for
and a
the
half.
dunk.
Two hands, just straight through the center of the lane, man. Like, what was holding you back in Detroit from dunking? Did he just have us all
I
fooled,
don't know.
Pat?
That's
Did
like his
he just-
trademark. I know. Was he trying to get out of there from day one? Right? He wasn't even dunking.
People are like, oh, he lost his explosiveness. Bro, you're 6'10". You don't need to be explosive to dunk. That's not how it works. You think
That's
Kendrick
true.
Perkins had explosiveness? No. You can still dunk when you're 6'10", Blake. Like,
Yeah, maybe it's not Lob City, going up freaking 6 foot vertical, but you can still throw it down. That's for sure.
but I'm just happy to see Blake on a good team, and we've talked about it. We don't mind that he's ring chasing. Normally, you're not happy with guys for ring chasing. No one cares with Blake. You're like, yeah,
No.
go win, man.
Blake's
Go
put in
win.
his dues. He's been a star. He's been on a rough team, losing season. I feel for the guy, and I hope he has success there with the Nets. And at this point, like the Celtics are so down bad. We're not going to do anything this year. I would rather just see the Nets win at this point.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the direction that we're headed into. which
that might be a good prediction. That might be a good prediction out of us.
We'll have to wait and see. The problem is if you put your money on that prediction, that's probably like the least money making bet you can make is the Nets winning the championship. Like I'm sure their odds are not, you're not making money on it.
No, you ain't making much money on that bet. That's for sure.
Pat, maybe we got to start just taking like 5 of our ridiculous takes and doing like a $10 parlay together and just hope they hit and hope we can hit some big money.
You get it. Yeah. Right. Then like, we'll see. And then, however many weeks later we do an episode, we go over it. And by chance it hits. Me and Chandler might have a studio. We might have a whole thing here if one of those things hit.
It's coming, bro. It's coming. I'm telling you. Pat, we're journalists now, man. We had an NFL interview. I'm telling you, we're real now.
We're gonna get a few more under our belt.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And that's a good segue too, man. We're gonna hit you guys with our next interview. My man Joe Gizzi. I hope that you guys enjoy this interview. It was a lot of fun talking to him. And yeah, please enjoy this under the radar segment with my man Joe Gizzi. So our next guest on Right Off the Bus for our Under the Radar segment is a good friend of mine and my family's, Joe Gizzi. Thank you for joining the show, man. Joe is a former college football player up at Assumption, turned to a marathoner, and honestly, Joe, you're kind of an endurance challenge junkie at this point. When I was writing this, that's kind of how I describe you, man. So you're on here to talk about some of the challenges you've done, some of the running you've done, man. And hey, we appreciate you coming on the show to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, both Pat, Chan. It's a pleasure to be here. These are my people right
All right. And before we dive into the endurance challenges, we want to ask you about your time at Assumption College. Can you briefly talk about what it's like to play last line of defense as a safety in college football?
Yeah, so when you go into college, some of the challenges are going to be once you get there, you're coming from, I would say, 10, 15 years working Pop Warner, high school, all that. So you've built these bonds going into something that's completely new and working, developing some sort of camaraderie once you're in a whole new environment. And the speed of the game, it's a lot quicker. So you have to adjust very quickly. So going into it, you got to really make a name for yourself. And that's really going above and beyond. For me, as Assumption, I didn't really stand out with, coming from, I don't know, maybe my best year for record wise in high school was like 4 and 5 or 4. So I got to make a name for myself in different ways. I didn't have the crazy highlight reel. So I'm out there running around on special teams like a madman. So like, that's how I got my name. So like when I'm out there on kickoff, they're saying unleash the gizzard. That's what I'm doing. So that's, I would say, the biggest thing when it comes to that, the speed of the game, making yourself known through your work ethic. And throughout my tenure there, I ended up getting the lunch pail my senior year of Assumption there. And what that signifies is that you come to work and show up. You show up ready to go. And it wasn't until my senior year that I started and having an impact on the defense with safety. So that's where it led me. I had to really grind and get to that point. It wasn't given. I earned that.
And what's the lunch pail? Is that an award that you can earn at Assumption, or is that like across football?
Oh, I'm excited. He's bringing it back. He said, I know right where it is. Oh, it's tough to see with the green screen, but
All good. It's a legit dusty lunch pail. Like, it really signifies like you going to work.
I was picturing it was a trophy. I was
like construction worker 1940s, like that's the lunch pail right there.
No, I
Getting
think
up,
they
going
got
to
it
work.
out of the junkyard.
All right. Well, is there anything that you learned from playing a team sport like football that translates into some of your running challenges that are often a solo thing?
It's mindset. I'd say the biggest thing, it's mindset. You have to commit to yourself, belief in yourself, and really position yourself like inside your head with like power in some sort of way. Like you look yourself where I can see like a picture or a video of me running out and there's like, okay, ready to go, the adrenaline. And I'm picturing my mind off like the start of the race of where I'm at. So I'm later on and like all the noise, the excitement, I'm picturing that throughout because I just want that picture of power as I go through. Something that really provides when it gets difficult and that limiting inner voice creeps in, that you can feel that power and it starts to bring you back.
That's legit, man. That's legit. I wish I had that when I was running. I'm not quite there yet with the visualization, but I'm gonna get there, Giz. I'm gonna get there. So, Giz, man, you have done some crazy running challenges these past couple of years. You are now a marathoner. You have done a 50-mile day starting at midnight. You did the 4x4 by 48 Goggins challenge, and you did the living with a seal challenge, which may be the craziest out of all of them. But dude, you're in the category of an ultra runner now. Can you talk about what started and fueled that passion for running? How did that start?
So I just want to start with my first 5K. That's
Yeah,
where it started.
right.
I had never run a 5K. So doing football and being an athlete, I could definitely do it. I just never actually officially ran a 5K. So I started with that. And that was the beginning of 2019. And then I was just starting to run. I got one of my buddies who's prominent runner, runs a 4:10 mile pace as like his all-time best.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony. Yeah, he's a freak. So he was my running coach, and he built the foundation. And since I've developed over time, I've been able to go further, faster. So that was a commitment. That year I ran 1,000 miles, and that wasn't even the goal when I started. I saw I was at 400 something, getting close to halfway through 2019. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go for 1,000. And then ever since, that's really what propelled me forward with all this other stuff. It's just, wow, I can do a lot more than I thought I could. So then how do I keep myself engaged? By creating these huge, massive goals in front of me. And so that's what's driven me forward, is just trying to get to that point, because yeah, I've done these. I've also failed at other ones along the way.
No, I hear you there. And Giz, your most recent one was the Goggins 4x4x48 challenge, which we talked a little bit about on the podcast. I had mentioned that I just got back from a 4 mile run with you when we were filming. And I'm going to just explain what that is real quick to the listeners again. 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So you end up doing 48 miles over 48 hours, dude. You're a total nut for doing it. Obviously, it being a Goggins challenge, it's a little bit crazy to begin with. But can you talk about what made you decide to take on this challenge after you had only gotten something like 40 miles of running in on the year? You were not getting much mileage. What made you want to jump in and do this challenge?
It's the goals that I set before this year started. So non-negotiable, these are going to be at least attempted. So other areas of my life took priority, and they've excelled for that reason, because I try to focus on one or two things at a time. And so the running, the exercising took a back burner for good reason, because those areas are in a great position now. So leading up to it, there wasn't much preparation. Thankfully, there was a foundation that I could lean on to be able to do this, because otherwise I would have been screwed.
That's fair, man. That's fair.
And then the other challenge we mentioned was the Living with a Seal challenge that you did. Can you explain kind of what that is, and then what was the hardest part about that for you personally?
So Living with a Seal, that's Jesse Itzler. He wrote a book. It's hysterical. Highly recommend reading that
Great
book.
book.
It's really funny. But there was 30 days of very difficult challenges throughout, and just to show up every single day, the different times, the different intensity. Some are intervals, some are fast, some are slow. And it's not just running. There's push-ups, there's burpees, and it's all done in certain times. So like with push-ups, sit-ups, there's different workout and difficult exercises that they compact all together, where it really beats you down. So that accumulated close to 220 something miles, maybe 8,000 something push-ups, maybe close to 2,000 sit-ups, a couple hundred pull-ups, couple hundred burpees. There was fireman's where I had to throw my roommate over my shoulder and run 30 yards and do 14 sets of that, with bicycle kicks in between and push-ups. So that was probably my proudest achievement. It was 30 days of hell.
No doubt there, man. And just to say again, that book by Jesse Itzler, this is a billionaire that isn't satisfied with his fitness. So he pays David Goggins, a Navy SEAL, one of the baddest dudes on the planet, to come live with him and train him like this, man. So Gizzi, you did this for fun. Like, you did this month just for fun, which is absolutely nuts, man. And you do a lot of this crazy stuff for fun. And as impressive as your marathon was, Giz, that first one you got done, you decided, I got to do a 50-mile day. You decided that that's what one of the next course of action is going to be. So what made you want to start running at midnight and have the goal of running 50 miles that day? Because you ran 20 miles at midnight and then some smaller intervals throughout the rest of the day?
Yeah. So that challenge, I would say a few months before that, I was trying to do my second virtual marathon. So this is my second marathon ever. And leading up to that point, I had actually ran 18 miles and threw in the towel with cramping. Then the next week I tried it again. Dehydration stopped at 14. And then the third week straight, because I just was pissed off at myself, I just wouldn't give it quits. I ended up calling it quits with 18 something miles again with cramping. So that was something that really, in the back of my head, a few months later, that was still there. Like, it was really personal when I got to that 50-mile day. And so when I started it, I would say the only mistake, I went into that starting at midnight, where I probably should have got some sort of sleep before this challenge, because starting at midnight with a full day of just like actual engaging activity going into it, not resting right before it, running those 20 miles really took a lot out of me before getting like a 3-hour nap, I would call it, because it's not sleep, before I jump back out on the pavement afterwards. But yeah.
Mhm.
50 miles, man.
Well, you're no stranger to challenges, and now you've got a new challenge started in starting a company. So as we can see on video, Mindset IV, would you want to share a bit about that and what your purpose is in starting that company?
Yeah, so over time, it's really created a confidence within me that I could also share this insight with others. I've been outside of just these physical challenges. I meet weekly with an accountability group, and we call each other, like the group itself, success buddies. So over time, the concept behind it is through compounding interest. Little everyday decisions compounded over time is going to lead to disproportionate outcomes. And it's from the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And so that's really the premise of this group, where we meet and speak on our successes, struggles, and new things we're trialing, and providing feedback once we present to each other. So having that, with all this craziness with these physical challenges, I think there's like a market for myself that I could really dive deep into and help impact others and mold their mindsets and start turning things around. Because I don't look at, like, when it comes to the overall, there's like no shortcut to hard work, just hard work kind of like thought process that's behind all this. And that I'm not looking for the quick fix. I don't want anybody that wants the quick fix. I want people that are ready to grind and know that this is like the forever routine type of. So when I look at Mindset IV, I think that most of us live on autopilot and don't confront our limiting inner voice and kind of lean towards comfort as opposed to discomfort. So I want to push others to break free and go outside of their comfort zone, because with the way that I see, there's two different directions that you can either lose to your limiting inner voice, and most people don't even get to that point. Most people don't even break through to that point. So you can lose. And so that can fuel you, that anger, that resentment, that frustration, similar to me failing those 3 marathon attempts. That was in the back of my head for a while. So like having that fuel when you lose, you can use that next time around. And on the other side, when you win, you defeat it over time, you start creating repetition throughout all this, and it becomes habit. And so when you gain the confidence that you can do it in one area, now that over time you've defeated, or lost, and then defeated, whatever it is over time, then it becomes habit, the confidence, you've done it here, now you can do it elsewhere. So like these are some of the things where I break it up into awareness, discipline, consistency. I want to help you become more aware of what's holding you back or where you're stagnating and why. So creating that, some of the things that you want to focus on, you may have no idea what that is. So it's trialing new things, seeing what works, what doesn't work in that first phase. So being open-minded to trying all this stuff. And then secondly, now that you know what you want to focus on, now it's discipline. That's phase 2. So trialing new things and conditioning the things that are in front of you in different ways, that's where it really starts to, resonate within that. If you're just doing it normal, it's easy. So if you're doing it in different ways and just being a little bit more extreme with it, that's where it's just going to be automatic, just a normal routine with it. And then now that there's discipline associated, I want to focus on consistency. Through consistency, that's going to become habit becomes second nature. So like that's my thought process with Mindset IV.
Absolutely, man. And I definitely agree with you to the fact that we're all a bit too comfortable, right? We don't push ourselves, we don't get out of our comfort zone. So I think what you're doing is important, man. And I hope that you can continue to affect people with it. And Giz, the listeners have to be dying to know, all 25 of them, man. What is your next challenge gonna be? What is it? Do you have a next challenge set up?
I have a few this year. I don't know when each of these are going to when. I guess I'll speak of this. One of the living with a seal challenges was doing 1,000 push-ups in a day, and I did that earlier in 2020, just trialing it for fun. And this
For
one,
fun.
but within living with a seal, I had a goal of doing it under an hour, and I did 1,000 push-ups under an hour. So that's something I want to see how many I can do in a single day. That's a challenge I want to accomplish this year, as well as see how many miles I can get in one day. I have a goal of breaking 70 since I've done 50. I literally got the 50 within 15 minutes of the 24-hour time span. So I want to break 70 this time around. So those are two of the challenges that I'm thinking of.
Well, Giz, I will absolutely come run a stretch with you on the 70-mile day, but I want absolutely no part of the push-up day. I'm going to stay as far away from that as I possibly can. I hope you understand.
No hard feelings, right?
I'm with it. I'm with it. But Giz, that's wrapping it up, man. That was our last question. So just thank you again for coming on to talk about those challenges and what you're doing. It was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, man. And I will say, if you want to go follow Giz, the Gizzard, there's a million different nicknames, man. Gizmo, he's got all of them. But if you want to follow him, man, and check out his stories for some serious inspiration, you got to go check out at JGizzy32 and at Mindset I.V. Those are the two socials you need to go check out, Giz. Thanks again for coming on. I don't know if you want to say anything to wrap up. I don't know if you got any parting words or you just want to go tell the people to follow you, check out what you're doing, but the floor is yours if you want it.
Yeah. Stop living life on autopilot. Can break through the noise and really start to explore the person that you were meant to be. That's it.
Well said.
I'm sold. Thanks again for coming on, Giz.
Thank you for having me.
Hope everyone enjoyed listening to that interview with Gizzi. He's done some pretty incredible stuff with, being a college football player, transitioning into marathons and these crazy running challenges, Pat. A lot of fun to talk to him. Hopefully we can get some other endurance athletes on the podcast. I say hopefully, we definitely will, but we got to run through a couple quick listener questions real fast. We had some submitted about Oral Roberts and, the women's weight room fiasco, but we touched on those things in the pod. So we're going to run through some of these real quick, Pat. But my boy, Dave Youngerman, I don't even know where he's at right now. I want to say he's in South Carolina, but I could be totally wrong. He said, is Brady going to go for 10 rings by the age of 50? Pat, I'm going to legitimately say yes to this question. Brady's contracted through 46 years old. I think the Bucks are the favorite to win the Super Bowl next year. That would be 8. I don't see 10 being out of the option, and I legitimately don't see 50 being out of the option for Brady. I really don't.
I think he'll stop at 45. 50 years old, that's just ridiculous, right? Like he can't possibly go that long, can he? I don't know. I'm sure it's possible. He spends millions of dollars on his body every year, but he could get 10 rings, but I just don't think he'll be around to 50. I think 45 is probably it for him.
And how
old is he right now? Is he 43?
He's 43. He's contracted through 46 right now.
Hell, if he wins a Super Bowl twice in the next 2 years and he's at 9, I might as well just shoot for 10 at that point. If I were in his shoes, I think I would just go for 10, regardless of how healthy you are. Stick around for 46, go for 10. But we got to see what happens this coming year, because he'll probably be there for 2 more years. He'll play a couple more years, I think, regardless of what happens.
Yeah. No, it is funny just to even the fact that it's a conversation is funny. You know what I mean? Because it's
absurd.
It's like fringe possibility, but it's still realistic in a sense, which is hilarious. Our boy Carter, Pat, he said, do you think Aaron Gordon would be a good fit for the Celtics? I say absolutely yes. I think that power forward is what we're missing. We don't have one on our roster. Grant Williams is 6'5". I don't really count him. Yes, I think Aaron Gordon would be a phenomenal fit. I'd love to use some of that TPE money on him. And I know Aaron Gordon's a guy that you've been high on for the Celtics for a while.
Yeah, we first mentioned this on episode 3 with Adam Taylor, where I asked him about, bringing Aaron Gordon to the Celtics. And he mentioned how he had been asked about it many times. I do think it would be a good move for us. We have the largest trade exception. And I think it's a move that we got to make. I think at this point we need it. Hopefully we could lock him down for a few years, because as I mentioned earlier, this year is not going to be it. But next year, 2 years from now, that could be like the complete team that we need. It could be by that time Danny Ainge puts together our team, or by then, God, he's got to be on the hot seat by then, right? Because he's not on it yet. And we mentioned, we can't picture him leaving. But by that point, like if we don't win or at least contend for a championship in the next 2-3 years, there's got to be something to be done.
We're like Man United or the Lakers, man. We get linked with every single top player, and then we never get any of them. Like,
yeah,
it is
Ravens.
What it is. Right, all the top wide receivers. Y'all are gonna get Antonio Brown, man. I can feel it. It's gonna be
cool, because him and Marquise are cousins, but we don't need to mention the Ravens anymore for the listeners.
Right. Now, Pat, this one's kind of funny. We were thinking about it. My man Caleb from Westfield, He asks, who are some of the best athletes you watch because you hate them? And Pat, we're kind of nice guys, man. I don't know. I don't think we really hate any players. There are teams that I hate and franchises that I hate.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't watch them out of hate. I watch them because they're good. Like I hate UNC. I hate the Yankees, but they're elite. So I'm gonna watch them. But Pat, we were saying it. I think we got to be a little PC here and just not burn any bridges before we get to them because we want to keep our options open, Pat. We want to have everybody on the pod.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, I don't hate any athletes, right? Like as of now, I mean, it's just beyond that point. I don't want to burn any bridges, but genuinely, there's nobody I really hate. I will say when I was a kid, though, the people that I hated were the guys who transitioned from the Red Sox to the Yankees. I don't care what Johnny Damon did for us as a team member in 2004. When he went to the Yankees, he was dead to me. Jacoby Ellsbury, Ellsbury was way worse than Damon. When Ellsbury moved on, I had an Ellsbury jersey. He moved on to the Yankees. Oh, I was devastated. I hated him. Never wanted to hear his name. I was glad he was never that good there. Sorry, Jacoby. I was young. I would love to have you on the podcast. I do like you as a person and as a player in retrospect, but when you moved to the Yankees, man, that I hated you. That broke my heart.
It does kind of like wipe you from Red Sox history. Like
it has to, right? I mean, it's our biggest rival. You could go anywhere else. Go anywhere. Go to the Mets. Don't go to the Yankees. Go to the other side of the subway system. Go to the Mets. Don't go to the Yankees.
The Babe Ruth one must have really hurt you back in the day. No.
Yeah, it didn't really. I mean, I was
negative 100 years old.
Yeah, that one doesn't really sting the same.
And yeah, Pat, I don't think I've ever actually like hated an athlete, but when I was growing up, like I hated Eli Manning. I hated Eli Manning because of 2007 and 2012 being like, I hate, like maybe I still do. I sound angry, but I'm sure Eli's a nice guy. Invite him on the pod anytime. He's been great on Twitter since he retired. He's been very, very funny.
Yeah, that's just it's like one of those team things because you didn't like the Giants either, obviously, because of what they did. I'm sure you hated Jeremy Shockey.
Yeah, yeah. Shockey used to be a beast back in the day. Chargers Shockey, not Giant Shockey. That's the one that I like. But man, Chris West played football at Westfield. Shout out Chris West, man. Winners and losers of NFL free agency really fast. Pat, I will say, not just from being a Patriots fan, I think the Patriots are the clear winner of free agency right now.
Yeah, I know they do the grading system. I would give the Patriots an A for sure.
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone that's been close to them, but also the fact is the draft hasn't happened. A lot of roster building still has to happen. So it's hard to say winners and losers, but I don't even have a loser off the top of my head, but the winners, I will say the Arizona Cardinals and the New England Patriots. The Cardinals, AJ Green, JJ Watt, a couple of the other little moves they made. I'm gonna go Pats and Cardinals for my winners here.
Yeah, I'd honestly like to revisit this question like right before the season starts, or at least preseason. I think we should revisit it and see after the draft's been done and roster building, everything's kind of set for the coming year. As of right now, I would agree with your winners. I will say my loser is probably the Bears because, I mean, they just went after a quarterback so aggressively. They went after Russell Wilson. They offered like an arm and a leg for the guy, draft picks. They offered so much for him. They couldn't get him. And not only that, they got rid of Trubisky, which is kind of, I mean, it was a positive to Bears fans, I'm sure, but it's not really a positive when the guy you replace him with is Andy Dalton. It's like you go out and get Dalton for Trubisky. They're kind of on the same level. They're both talented, but are they franchise quarterbacks? Not in my eyes, really.
And Trubisky's officially a bust to me now. Like he's officially a bust.
I know, and I liked him. He's a UNC guy. I love him. Like he came with Eric Ebron. They both played at UNC, and I loved both of them coming into the league. Ebron's talented. We don't hear much about him right now, but same with Trubisky. I wanted to see him succeed and be a franchise quarterback, but it's going to take some work because now it went in the wrong direction too. He's backing up for Josh Allen, and unless Josh Allen gets injured, he's not going anywhere.
Yeah, no, man. It's sticking with quarterbacks. We got our last listener question, man. Ryan Manion. This is the other half of Book Thinkers, Pat. This is my brother's partner. He's actually in Cartagena, Colombia right now, Ryan. So shout out Ryan for submitting this question down in Colombia.
Oh, great. Wow.
But will the Pats be starting Cam Newton this year? And I talked about this earlier. The Patriots are going to have another good quarterback on their roster. I don't know if it's going to be a trade because we have the money for it, but we're either going to be trading for a young guy or we're going to trade up in the draft to take one of the top quarterbacks. Mac Jones, Trey Lance, one of those guys is going to be on the Patriots if they trade up in the draft, if they don't go and get someone before the draft. But I will say Cam is not going to start the whole season. Cam is going to start 6 to 8 games, and then they're going to realize that he's halting this offense a little bit, and then a rookie's going to come in and bring us to the promised land. Just kidding.
I'm going to think, but I say they won't go out and get one in free agency, but I think Cam will start unless what I saw is they were rumored to be looking at Justin Fields, and they might trade up to go get Justin Fields in the draft. And if that happens, I could see Justin Fields sitting for like half the year, kind of Cam mentoring him a little bit, and it just depends on how Cam's playing. And then maybe Fields will take over. Maybe it'd be like a Tua and Ryan Fitzpatrick situation, even though Fitz wasn't playing bad and they just brought in Tua to take over anyways. Poor Fitz. But yeah, I'll say that's my prediction. Cam, if they go and get Justin Fields, like it was a rumor. It's hard to know if there's any weight to it, but hey, where there's smoke, there's a fire. We don't know. They might trade up and get him. And I'm interested to see what happens with the Pats QB situation this year. I know you probably are as well.
Oh yeah. Just to end it, I think that Cam will start 4 to 8 games this year.
That's a good prediction.
I don't think he starts the full season.
I like that number.
Don't. All right, man. Hey, we appreciate the listener questions. Keep sending them in. We're going to keep posting them. Hit the right off the bus sports at gmail.com, man. Go on the website, rightoffthebus.com, and submit a question, man. Go to Instagram, go to the Twitter. We don't care where. Throw it in an Apple podcast review. Throw it anywhere. We're going to find it. YouTube comments.
We'll pick it out.
We're on it. Pat, we got to move on to what we've learned, man. But first, we got to get a quick word from one of our sponsors, Book Thinkers. You guys already know, but if you read personal development books, nonfiction books, you got to check out Book Thinkers. This company is dedicated every single day to helping you achieve more, fulfill more, and live better through books. So please check out their Instagram. They post daily. Head over, check out their podcast. They have 50-something podcasts now with top authors in so many different disciplines. And they're going to connect you with new mentors, new books, and you're just going to find out so much more about yourself, you know, your own knowledge, your own limits, everything else. So please check out Book Thinkers on Instagram. Just type in Book Thinkers, go to bookthinkers.com, check out their podcast, check out the team. This team's doing some really amazing stuff. So please, our most loyal sponsor, Pat, you know, check out Book Thinkers. Thank you, everyone. And now we got to get on to what we've learned, Pat. So if you want to start in the theme of March Madness, Pat, I know you got a little March Madness themed what we've learned.
Mm-hmm. And something I've wanted to see since I was a kid, because I've done brackets since I was like 6 years old. My dad was at work and he always had like a work pool, so we would do that one, and that was a big pool, so we would always enter that one. My brother Matt actually won it when he was like 9. He picked Carmelo. It was when Syracuse had Carmelo Anthony and they went on that run and they were an underdog. So he picked him and won. He won like a ton of money, way more than like a 9-year-old should have. But but one thing I've always wanted to see was a perfect bracket. And like, especially after this year, I mean, there's no way that it ever happens. Like, I've always wanted to see one, and maybe it could happen, but I just don't see it being a possibility. I think you have better odds of winning the Powerball than you do of actually getting a perfect bracket. And it just goes to show, if you look at the numbers from this year, there were, I think it was 14.7 million entries, so almost 15 million flat. And after just the first day, so half of the first round of the 64 teams, only 108 left were perfect just after one day. And then after the second day and the finish of the first round, I don't believe any were perfect. So it's not like someone's ever been close. And like, I don't know if anyone's even made it perfect past the first round. Maybe they have. I'd have to look it up. But like, I maybe once. There's no way you'd be perfect after the second round. After the Sweet 16, there's just no chance. I mean, who would have picked 15 seed Oral Roberts to beat Ohio State? Who would have picked Abilene Christian 14 to beat Texas and Ohio to beat Virginia? I think, like, all in one bracket, you know. I mean, you can make like 20 entries, but even out of those 20, there's no way that you can do it. So I mean, it's called March Madness for a reason. There's just craziness that always happens. If someone were to get a perfect bracket, it'd have to be one where you just don't pick any upsets. And then for some reason, there's no upsets that year, but that's like what happens in March Madness. Again, it's called that for a reason. But yeah, I don't think there will ever be a perfect bracket. I'm hoping, I'm hanging on the hope for one, but I don't think there will ever be one.
It is incredible, especially with just the absolute force that ESPN puts into trying to get people to fill out these brackets. Like it covers their entire broadcast for days on end. Like the
Oh, yeah.
tournament challenge is massive, dude. And 15 million brackets. And after the first 16 games, there's 100 left. That's crazy.
Mhm.
It really is. It's impressive what happens with March Madness every year. Like you said, madness, perfect word for it. It really is pretty crazy. And Pat, what I learned this week is just this deal with Fenway Sports Group, John Henry, who owns the Red Sox, Liverpool, Fenway Racing, bunch of other things. LeBron James and Mav Carter, his business partner, have bought 10 and an investment group like Redbird Capital or something, invested $750 million to own 10% of Fenway Sports Group, which, like I said, the two big ones are obviously Liverpool and the Red Sox, right? And LeBron was already a part owner, like very, very small in those endeavors. But these are the first ever Black members of Fenway Sports Group, which I think is really cool, bringing some diversity into one of the biggest and oldest ownership groups. Obviously, LeBron and Mav Carter are doing some pretty crazy things. They're very impressive. But the thing that really matters here, Pat, is that there is going to be a cash influx to Liverpool, which I hope is the case. If $750 million, right? Just give Liverpool an extra 150. 200 might be a little too generous because they'll already have 150 from all the Premier League, Champions League, all the income and revenue and stuff. But I mean, right now, to put on a game at Anfield or Old Trafford, it costs these teams, they're losing $3 million in ticket sales and concessions and parking and all this stuff. They're losing a lot of money. So
yeah,
this amount of money during COVID right now is huge. And who knows? Maybe this brings in Mbappe. Maybe this brings in just one of the top players in the world to Liverpool. But I'm just hoping this builds some depth. And that's what I've learned this week. Really fantastic partnership with LeBron and Mav Carter. And hopefully it does wonders for both the Red Sox and Liverpool. Hopefully that farm system in Boston gets back on its feet and we can start getting some more prospects in since we traded the whole farm out. But that's what I learned, man. Gonna be an interesting transition with a new cash influx and some new ownership. Hopefully there's some cool collabs. Hopefully there's gonna be some Liverpool and Red Sox LeBrons coming out. It's gonna be cool. That's what I learned this week.
And New England fans, we can't get rid of LeBron, can we? I mean, we can't get away from him. He made our lives hell in the East for so long. The Cavs, the Heat finally went to the West, but LeBron, you had to get in on the Red Sox, didn't you? You had to.
Dude's gonna buy 10% of the Celtics when he retires.
Yeah, he's gonna be living in our heads, not rent free, mind you, but he'll be in our heads no less.
Hey man, he's always there. Pat, that wraps up episode 13, man. I say it every episode and I just keep repeating myself, but it's so much fun, dude. We have such a good time. We sit here, we laugh, we talk off camera forever. We're texting each other about sports all week. We love what we're doing, man. We're talking to some cool people. Shout out Joe Gizzi again for coming on. Can't wait to get out and run with him again. But please follow, like, subscribe, comment on every platform. Apple Pod. You can't do anything on Spotify, so I can't say Spotify. YouTube, anything, man. We want to get that Pat Ricard episode to get those listens up. We want that to be our most listened to episode. But please, guys, like, follow, subscribe. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show this week.
Yeah, thank you again, guys. Keep listening, and we're out of here.
You are listening to Right Off the Bus.